are Mary-Louise, a midwife and a maternity expert, and Renee Bardwaj, who's a mum of two. Thank you both for being with us. Let's come to you first, Mary. Breastfeeding can be very difficult. What kind of things do you think set someone up for success?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Breastfeeding can be really difficult, but one of the key things for new mums to know is antenatal education and also support during your breastfeeding journey can really help you to have a more successful journey. So when I say breastfeeding education, one of the best things you can do is really start to research what a good latch looks like, the different positions that you can get your baby in to feed in. Those things can really help you, because once you're in and amongst it all and you've got this newborn baby to care for and you're recovering from birth and you've got lots going on, it can be difficult to learn the skill anyway. But if you haven't done any prior research, it can be even harder. And the other thing is around education is making sure that you also understand normal newborn behavior. There are so many myths out there about newborn babies and how, you should wake your baby if they don't feed for 4 hours. I mean, that's true, but I have hardly met any babies in my 11 years as a midwife that have slept longer than 4 hours naturally. Most babies want feeding every hour or even sometimes 2 hours.
Yeah, you're taking me back. Oh my goodness, you're taking me back. Rennie, let's bring you in, because what struck me about this study was that they talked about mixed feeding, and we don't often hear about that. What was your experience?
Hi, thanks for having me. So I've had two separate different experiences with both my children, and with my first it was always breast is best, and then probably not any other positive options available. And knowing what I know now, I definitely just think you've got to do what's right for you. As Marion just said, I think it's key to have the support, and the knowledge is what I think is really important in the breastfeeding journey. It's difficult, you're emotional, it's exhausting, and I just think understanding both baby cues and yourself, that's really important.
That's the thing, Mary, isn't it? Because, women have just given birth. Often they're in pain, they haven't had much sleep, and then, their bodies are being asked to do something again. And often women can feel a sense of failure if it doesn't work out. Why don't we talk about mixed feeding more? A bit of both.
Yeah, exactly. So the World Health Organizations and most experts will agree that the optimum nutrition for a baby is exclusive breast milk. However, we know that the UK has one of the lowest breastfeeding rates in the world. And I do think that's for a number of reasons, but namely the lack of support and education, which, we identified just now. And also, I'm glad to hear that Renee also agrees. So, yeah, I think that's why combination feeding perhaps isn't discussed more, because there's a real focus on breast is best.
But do you think that is the best approach? If if it's not working, if the approach is not working, if we have such low rates, is it maybe time to take a different tack? Because this study shows even a bit makes a difference.
Yes, that's it, exactly. And I think breastfeeding and motherhood in general is all about being really honest with mums and saying, OK, here's what we do know, but we also know the reality of it, the difficulty of it, and the fact that we don't necessarily set mums up to breastfeed successfully. So if you do give your baby formula, if you do combination feed, any breast milk is fantastic and you have done an incredible job, and there's nothing to feel guilty about. It makes me so sad, the guilt and the shame that mums carry because of this breast is best that's really pushed upon them, and they don't realise that actually they've done a fantastic thing, even if they've just breastfed their baby for the first few hours, few days, or they've got to the first few weeks and then they've gone on to combination feeding or formula. That baby has still had some breast milk, and that is an amazing thing.
And Rennie, do you think that would have made a difference to you, perhaps a slightly different messaging with your first baby, just to maybe give you a bit of confidence?
100%, because I had the experience of it wasn't successful, but I tried for 2.5, 3 weeks. And then after that, I had to then, wean him off and then go straight to bottle. And I felt guilty, just everything there. I felt guilty. I felt like I'd failed. I couldn't do it. And then when I reached out to my midwife, who then upon me made me feel worse, unfortunately. And it was really, really bad. And it took so long emotionally to get over that. However, when it came to my second, it was a completely different experience. I think I had the experience, I had the confidence, and then I actually did a bit of both, but I continued on. So when you look at it, my first experience was only a few weeks. My second experience was 6 months. So I am really proud of that, being able to say it. But I think if the narrative was to change and just to do it as both, but doing what's best for you. I think everyone's mindset would be different. I think everybody would feel at ease because when you're having a baby, you see the posters, you see the information around us. It's always breast is best. And if that narrative did change, I think it would change the way everybody, took that on, because it is hard. It is really, really difficult if you don't know, especially if it's your first child. So, yeah, I think having that message would increase people and give them the support they need.
That's interesting, Mary, isn't it? Because we know the breast is best message. We've got it. But I think sometimes women feel left out in that conversation, as in their well-being doesn't matter in that. I mean, how do we get around that?
Yeah, exactly. It's a really complex topic, and this is something that I speak about a lot online, and how important it is to look after mothers as well. I always say the nurturer needs to be nurtured, and women go through difficult experiences during childbirth, sadly. Sometimes they've got tears to care, for example, or another wound to care for. And then on top of that, they've got the emotional and hormonal upheaval. And that's not to scare mums, that's to be realistic. And it's really important that we always consider how mums feel along their journey. The last thing we want to do is induce any further guilt or shame. And no mum should ever experience that. In fact, what we need to offer women is real, authentic, solid support throughout their journey, no matter what they choose to do, in a non-judgmental way. So I absolutely agree with Rennie. I think it's so important to have those messages that support mums to feel confident on their journey, rather than feel like they need to pick a team. It's either formula or breastfeeding. There is no middle ground. There absolutely is middle ground.
Yeah, and Rennie, if there's a new mum watching tonight, you've had two very different experiences. Like, what would your advice be, mum to mum?
I would just say, give it a try. Like we just said, there's no wrong or right in this situation. Give it a try. And if the baby doesn't latch on, just push through it if you can. I know that's easier said than done, because I did and I've tried. So I've come from a place of experience. But if not, just reach out for the right support. Have a group of mums, because the experience that you get from a group of mums from